I love geeking out on all this stuff because I'm newer to the area than you. But I guess fell in love with this place and I love learning about it. I almost feel like a little bit of a poser because I'm so new, but I just loved it.
Don't feel like a poser. I still feel like an imposter sometimes because I've only been here 25 years. My girlfriend and partner have been together for almost 8 years, born and raised. Left for 10 years and came back. She can actually call herself a true local, like your hat.
Yeah.
Or native. She can be a native. We're trying to figure out when's the local. Like, when can you say you're a local? Is it 20 years? Is it 10 years? Is it 50?
Yeah.
But if you're born, you're native.
Definitely.
You got street cred.
Definitely. Yeah. And it's a place that people are proud to be from, for sure.
So.
My license says SLO, so I'm happy with that.
That counts. You got your tax base, your money, you're a resident. Yeah. I know you split time with Santa Clara.
Yeah. I work for Santa Clara County. I would love to work here someday. But right now, the van outside is where I split my time in doing van life.
That's awesome.
And that's how I discovered SLOs, because I was passing through. I camped out.
Pandemic era or before?
Yeah. The van was converted in 2020 in Colorado. And as I made my way back up, it's like the fires were going on in Santa Cruz, where I'm from, and my parents were evacuated. So I was slowly making my way back.
Is that Boulder Creek area?
Ben Lomond, right next to Boulder Creek.
Yeah.
And I ended up I was visiting a friend in LA, and as I drove north, I just happened to take a break and camp for the night right there on the turnoff at Cuesta grade, like where it turns off. You could go up to West Cuesta Ridge.
Oh, yeah.
Just on the side of the road, just camped.
Yeah.
Didn't even know I was this close to this place. Never even been here. And then as I passed through, I'm like, this place is amazing.
You wake up in the morning and you kind of drive around and you're like, oh, I just hit the turn. You're like, wow.
Yes, exactly. Yeah. So I just explored it that way.
That's awesome.
And I was like, I want to live here one day. Okay. 4 years later, I guess 3 years later, I made it happen. So we
need to flip roles, do a SLO Lounge on you. So maybe if you're like 50th or 100th episode,
that would be fun.
We'll flip flop this.
Yeah. I don't talk a lot about it like myself because I'm always wanting to highlight and listen from others.
We need to promote the man behind the mic. Yeah.
It's fun to do. Yeah. It's a great way for me because, again, driving around, it's great to see things, but actually getting to be one-on-one with people with amazing things to say about this great place is a lot of fun.
Well, I appreciate the opportunity. Yeah, this is exciting for me. I have not done it's like a second podcast ever, I think.
Really? What was the first one?
Cal Poly. There was a professor who does probably weekly or twice a month on students or people in the profession.
Oh.
And he did I think he's close to 200 episodes or something.
Wow.
Yeah.
He does that now?
He does it now. Yeah.
What's his name?
Dr. Brian Greenwood.
Okay.
He is, I don't know his exact role, but he's in the experience industry management, the recreation RPTA. It's recreation. What is it? I don't even know now. They keep changing the name. It used to be called just rec majors, and then it was rec administration. Now it's experience industry management.
Wow. Yeah. He's heard some stories. I should talk to him.
Yeah.
That'd be fun. I really want to get into talking with people at Cal Poly.
He's a great personality too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Cal Poly is definitely an avenue I want to get into because, not only do you have the San Luis Obispo angle, but people there have so much knowledge about many different topics as to their profession as well. Because a lot of that stuff interests me in different places.
Nice. But I've got a lot of connections, so if we can talk offline or whatever.
Yeah.
I worked there for almost 20 years. So.
Yes, I want to get into all that too. But Greg, thanks for coming today. This is a lot of fun to do, like I said, and through meeting you at different events, like here and there, volunteering and being here when I can, you've always been so great to connect with. And now I'm glad you're here to talk about Parks and Rec and what you do now. I love talking
about that. Yes, absolutely. I've been waiting for a while. We've had some good interactions out in the field. So thanks for inviting me.
Absolutely. And so I know you did other things here in the city, in the area before directing Parks and Recreation. So if you want to give a little background or big background on you and your story and how you kind of led up to this position now.
Yeah, it could be a very long one. I'll try to be brief. My parents actually went to Cal Poly in the early 60s. That's how they met. My godmother never left. So she was my mom's roommate at the time. And fun fact, the Anderson Hotel downtown was actually a women's dorm. So my mom and my Aunt Pat actually lived on the second floor of that facility. So kind of always had a connection to San Luis Obispo. So my aunt, we'll call her, not by blood, but Pat, never left San Luis Obispo. And we moved and lived and grew up in the Bay Area, East Bay. And so all my schooling was up there. But we'd vacation down here and spend time So when I had a chance to go to college, I decided not to go to Cal Poly because it was too close to home. It felt like my second home already. Long Beach State was my undergrad, and I ended up majoring in recreation. I started off as a marine biology major, switched to recreation because I was lifeguarding and doing sports, and didn't realize that could be a career. At the time, it was more of just a summer job, and then kind of pick up odd jobs here and there. And then I got jobs at Long Beach and worked there in recreation, and just felt that passion. So returned to the Bay Area, was working up there for a couple cities for my initial career, and I feel like I crammed in like 10 years worth of experience in 5. Just had a great mentor that kind of exposed me to so many different things up and down the state that allowed me to get a job at Cal Poly. And I was the first aquatics coordinator at the recreation center, and worked my way through that up to director over a 20-year period. And 5 years later, or 5 years from previous from now, I got an opportunity to switch over to the city, and it's been amazing to like live in the city to provide services for your city and community. That I've been a part of kind of all my life, but really officially for about 25 years I've lived here.
That's amazing.
Yeah, it's exciting. It's a lot of like pressure sometimes to have your neighbors ask you questions every day about your job, but it's passionate and I love it. So yeah.
And here you are answering questions super specifically about your job for the next hour.
That's what we do. I enjoy it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And so, you went away to school, but then you ended up coming back. So after that, you were like, actually, I kind of realized that this is the place I want to be at, or
just knowing and having so much familiarity with San Luis Obispo and the Central Coast. So growing up in the Bay Area, a little town called Pleasanton, it's similar vibe as a San Luis Obispo. It's got like this really great downtown as its kind of historic focus, hillsides for hiking. San Luis Obispo just brings that extra piece of like, it's only 10 miles from the beach, and I'm a water person. If it's any kind of water sport, waterman style, I'm up for it.
Nice.
So to find the happy medium of Southern California, too busy, a little bit just congested, and that pace of life wasn't for me. Bay Area was great. Kind of felt, that's where I was born and raised. So going back there for my initial start of my career felt comfortable. But then again, it was growing. And an opportunity of, okay, I'm at a certain age where I think I can settle down here in SLO and do the SLO life. Yeah. And it was perfect timing. And 25 years later, I'm still here. That's
cool. You get a chance to explore and then realize that's what you want to, where you want to go toward. Similarly, I grew up in Santa Cruz, went to San Jose State. And then I think at that time I didn't realize the nature and beauty that I had grown up in. And so then I wanted to go toward a place like that where you have that here too.
That's the same feeling. Yeah. When I was at Long Beach State, it's very obviously urban.
Yeah.
And I didn't really appreciate what I grew up with, and then when you're 5-6 years away from that and you go back, you're like, oh yeah, it's too great to not find your roots somewhere and get established.
Yeah. Especially when you get a choice to go toward what you're feeling like you want to go toward. Now, was it this, I know you mentioned like a mentor. Was that, at what point did you mention the mentor, or like what was it that got you into being interested in being a professional in the outdoors, if you will?
That's a great question. Thank you for that. I've always, enjoyed sports and being outdoors and active. I grew up in the era where it was literally you live in the court, and you're outside until sundown, then you come in for dinner, and when the street lights go on, that was time to go home. So if it's summertime, it's 9:00. If it's, spring, it's 6:00, but you're allowed to be outside, do stuff, whatever you want. A lot of long leash back in the day of they called the latchkey kids, where our parents would work, Generation X, that's me, kind of self-sufficient. So I was able to do a lot of exploring on my own. If it's, hiking, going into the creeks and checking out tadpoles when you're a kid, to biking all over town. And then I got into lifeguarding as like a summer job that I just met a different group of people, got involved with the city structure, municipal style recreation. And when I went back up to the Bay Area after graduating from Long Beach with my undergrad, had a couple different jobs and got back into the recreation field in that Bay Area kind of network, I should say. And Jim Wheeler was a supervisor for aquatics in San Ramon, where I ended up getting like my first real full-time 40 hours a week benefited style job. And he just had tons of connections, and he was super passionate and driven, and he still is. And he exposed me to just what it can be as a career, not just a job. And that kind of flipped the switch for me.
When you can really find something you like, and then you go, I can actually make a life doing this. Yep. Beautiful.
It's, again, recreation's like the teaching profession. Like we're undervalued maybe in pay, but super valued in the community, and you have to make your choice of what you want to do.
Yeah.
And it's always, I tell my staff now is if you're struggling, like just reflect a little bit and like what gets you up in the morning, like what's going to make you want to stand up out of bed, make your coffee and go somewhere for 8 to 10 hours a day. Find that passion, because if you can make that a career, then it's not a job.
That's a great point.
And I think I just feel lucky that that I found my passion and it worked, and here I am.
Yeah, I think it's important for people to hear that. If you realize the amount of time that you spend doing something in your life, better make sure it's something you like to do, or at least try to aim toward that.
Oh yeah, and sometimes you can't.
Yeah,
people have different circumstances in their life. But, but if you can focus and try to find that, or at least achieve that through different channels.
Yeah, absolutely. What was it for you about water that you liked that aspect of it?
My mom. There's a picture of me being like 6 months old in my like aunt's pool up in the Bay Area. I still have that. It's like, it reminds me of like, oh, that's where it all started. She made me do swim lessons until I was like 13, 14. And all my other friends, I knew how to swim, but she kept calling them swim lessons. So my neighbor friends and had, someone knew I have a pool in their backyard. We're all out there. And then she'd really call out from the front porch, yell, time for swim lessons. And my friends would be like, oh my God, how, like, they make fun of you, right? Because you're 12 or 13 years old. And I'm like, Mom, it's not swim lessons. It's water rescue, or it's, it's like the advanced swim, kind of program. But once I got on my bike and I rode to the swim center in the pool, I just fell in love with everything about it, the whole scene. If it was the water, the people, the fitness aspect, the teaching of it, it was just like it just felt like home.
Yeah.
Yeah. I never did like competitive swim team. I did water polo as like a club type thing, but it was more, I did fitness swimming and I did rescue and life saving and all those kind of things. So that's kind of where I channeled it, where others might be their passion is getting up at 5:30 in the morning and swimming 5 days a week. I'm like, I use it as a recreational tool. And I think that helped me not get burned out. And I just followed that path all the way to beginning of my career.
Yeah, continue that love for it.
And that bled over to, oh, what else can you do in the water? Oh, scuba. Oh, surfing. Oh, paddleboarding. I was into marine biology, and that was, again, through high school. It kind of was like a passion. So I ended up attempting to do that as my first major in college. And I think that also was a part of it. It's something just being around lakes and oceans, and it was something that just drew me to it.
Yeah, when you just know. Yeah. So can we talk a little bit now about how this all kind of formulated into what you do now for the city as the director of Parks and Rec? And so, you get to bring your love of water, but there's also a lot of other aspects to it. I know there's so many different aspects of things that you do at that particular department from different divisions. There's facilities, activities. How do you bring your particular love of water even into all of that as well? And kind of an overview of how this has gone for has been 5 years now.
5 years with the city. Career-wise, it's a little bit over 30.
Wow.
The water aspect kind of ties into, again, lifeguarding and swim instruction. And then you learn risk management, and you learn teaching skills. You learn management of people and scheduling and training, customer service, group dynamics. Then you got budget that follows with all those as you kind of move through your career, and marketing. So it's kind of a well-rounded. I always look at like our SLO Swim Center here in San Luis Obispo. It's a year-round facility. They do all ages. So you've got from 6 months old to 106, basically. Wow. So you're doing programming for every age group in your community. You're marketing your programs. You're learning kind of facility oversight, management, risk management training, onboarding. You're kind of mini HR. So it kind of was like a little small microcosm of how to run a division or a department. So that was the base, right? And then I did some sport oversight, and then I got exposed to like seniors and programming. And when I left the city of San Ramon to go to Cal Poly, then I have like this new campus rec lens I had to kind of pivot to. And now I'm more in professional development, because I'm really working with 18 to 22, 24-year-olds who they're not majoring in lifeguards. They're not majoring in refereeing and doing intramural sports or membership desk. but what can we do while they're in our facility or under our kind of guidance as professional development to make them ready for their accounting job, their engineering job, their architecture job. So that kind of also added to the leadership and management piece of the puzzle. And then throughout that, you just kind of keep building up. And fortunately for me, there was the right timing to elevate and get promotions from assistant director to campus recreation director to the city department head and director for Parks and Rec, which now has 8 divisions of oversight. And you mentioned a couple of those, but it's very varied, very varied. But it's also it keeps it dynamic and exciting, and every day is different.
Yeah. It's amazing too that you get to look at it through the lens of how you were kind of raised to see the benefits that this type of life can have on a person as they grow up, and you get to then kind of lead people in that as well. And I want to get into like later the volunteer stuff, things like that, where people can get involved. Can you give us a rundown of those 8 divisions, if you will?
I knew that was coming. Might not be in alphabetical order.
Sure.
Obviously aquatics, right? So we have a slow swim center. It's a year-round facility. We've got an amazing coordinator who's been there for 10 years. So very blessed in my role to have consistency and a key expert. And there's anywhere from 30 to 50 other part-time staff to manage that. We have got a golf course, which is also our other satellite kind of standalone facility, which is also year-round. And that's the most kind of independent and almost sort of its own business format over at Laguna Lake Golf Course. So that has got an interesting history, as it was an HOA property before it was kind of passed on to the city in the late 70s. So a lot of the infrastructure and the original plans we don't even know about. So, so we've been able to tweak and kind of modify and upgrade that facility over the last 20 plus years under our management. But it's been great to see that kind of program. And that's something new for me as I was able to transfer from campus recreation at a university into a city. We've got our outdoor and open space with our rangers. So we've got 4,000 plus acres, 65 and more coming of miles of trails, and a basically full service ranger team that does education, stewardship, as well as maintenance, repair. And then they work with our natural services. I think you had Bob Hill on here at a previous episode. And I work basically dotted line with Mr. Hill to make sure that the environmental piece of our valued open space is treated the right way. And then he supports my ranger team, and I support his oversight of policy and kind of stewardship piece. So it's been a great relationship with that. So that's been like one of the more exciting, new things for me. Youth services and childcare, 5 school sites. We got anywhere from 600 to 700 kids per day that we're able to take care of for our community. And that's a year round because we do summer camps and spring break camps and all of that too. So that's one of our largest divisions. One that you're probably more familiar with is our community services division that does the adult and youth sports to all of our events. So our Monday meetups that we do every summer with the food truck nights, all of our special events like the Boo Bash that we recently had in October for the Halloween, Spring Fling coming up in April for the Easter kind of timeline. So that's kind of like the traditional, recreation pieces. Public art, which is another exciting kind of community-focused aspect of our world. It's been around for many years within the city, but it's been a newer thing for us at Parks and Rec to kind of have more guidance from City Council and almost wouldn't say major city goals, but a major city focus on public art. And that's been a great opportunity really the last 4 years. Kind of happened during the pandemic that we wanted to revitalize that and really get it pushed forward to kind of build a sense of community, and it just took off. So we've been doing bigger and better things with that. And then volunteerism is I think our last piece of the puzzle there. And that's been a new program. And so it's housed under Parks and Rec, but it's a citywide volunteer program. And we're just lucky to have it under our umbrella, but it does support all the different departments within the city and then our community aspect of getting the volunteers. And if they need volunteer support, they can kind of do an intake form and our staff will help them out.
Wow.
So it's a lot to handle, but it's pretty exciting. I know I'm so glad, and I love our police and our fire, but those are way more complicated than ours. But ours is still complicated.
It sounds complicated. It's very complicated.
People don't always realize there's all those different aspects. And then sometimes you're not even realizing, and you're on a trail, what it really takes.
Right. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
So that's our goal. Have our community go 23 plus parks. I think we have 25 now because we just opened up North Broad Street. But we don't want them to have to think about it. We want them just to use it. Right. So,
that's nice.
So it's kind of, if they don't think about it, then we're probably doing our job.
Wow.
Right?
You passed the test, all the divisions there?
I think so. I didn't count. I ran out of fingers.
You're great. And it's amazing to hear that because, I mean, there's so many things to it. And it's like it touches almost, basically all parts of the city functions. And the other thing that I love too is everything that you talked about. I think this is a testament to your leadership too, is that everything that you touched on, is this level of collaboration with others as well. And I think that's amazing to hear that it's not just one person or one entity, it's people coming together to make this place what it is.
I appreciate that viewpoint because we intentionally had a big focus on during the pandemic timeline of how do we get our community back together. Everybody was isolated. Everybody had to go inside, stay in silos. We always, in Parks and Recreation, always had collaborations, but there were silos. Golf didn't always interact with aquatics, right? Or the senior center wasn't, necessarily interacting with other programs. When it came to the pandemic, it was all hands on deck, and we wanted to bring our community back together. Which first you got to bring your staff back together, and so we did spend a lot of time, and that's been one of our focuses is the people. People are your staff, people are your community, people are your colleagues, people are the participants. And that's been our big focus, is making sure our awesome community of San Luis Obispo, that we're a part of it.
Yeah. Well, hopefully through people, like you said, people who use a trail may not know the effort that goes into all that, but it's that collaboration, it's that effort, it's physical labor, it's intensive, it's a lot of operational effort. Is, I guess, the goal for people to just be able to enjoy these spaces. But through this, I hope people can understand the effort and the love behind it too. But how do you, I guess, view, how do people get involved? Is it through volunteerism? Is it through just enjoying it and being stewards of these natural spaces? How do people ensure that your job is able to go seamlessly as well?
Honestly, our community is very unique. We have such an involved community, from the Cal Poly kind of educated, from students to the professors and administration, to our community that have a high level of either a degree or just care and community about. There's a passion about San Luis Obispo, and people gravitate to SLO or Boomerang. They leave and then they come back. If they're born and raised or they had a little taste of it, there's always like this interest wherever I go, up and down the state and even out of state. It used to be where they couldn't figure out what is San Luis Obispo. They're like, St. Louis, like Missouri? I'm like, no. Now we have, our airports helped because we have a lot more flights and direct flights. But before that, nobody knew where I was going when I was on a plane or where I was from. But then everybody that you did know about it, the first thing is everybody's, I love, and then ... I love sandwiches. I love the hiking trails. I love whatever. There's something about San Luis Obispo that pulls people in. So it makes my job a little easier because our community wants to be involved. They care about a crack in the sidewalk to a tree limb that's bent or broken, to just being a participant at farmers market or concerts in the plaza or the parade last night for the holiday parade, or being in our programs, or just being able to walk out of your house within like a half mile. You can hit almost any of our trailheads. Yeah. So it makes it easy to get involved because people want to be involved. We've got volunteers that work on the trails that is organized through our ranger division. We had like Wednesday mornings and certain Saturdays where you have people out there, just general community members with shovels and equipment, keeping those trails looking beautiful. And we're hoping that when people do that when they're on their own, they naturally will take and respect the trail a little bit differently, because they put their own effort into it.
Yeah.
And then our volunteer program, which is now formalized, we bring people in to help at different events. We have an Adopt a Park program. We have people working at the Jack House as volunteers, as well as the Senior Center as volunteers. And then we even have some volunteers now working in some administrative, like helping at front desks throughout the city at finance or at our community development offices. because people want to be involved. So it's been a very easy, oh, no, what did I say? It's much easier to get people involved when they have that passion about the city already.
Yeah. It astounds me. Speaking of the Jack House, just a year ago, I took a tour of it during the holidays.
Nice.
And it's so crazy to me to think that taking a tour of that house or utilizing the swim center, falls under the same umbrella in a way. Like, that's so amazing that it's so broad.
I get a little whiplash once in a while because I have to figure out, okay, what do we talk about today or this minute? Yeah. But from a historic, property like the Jack House to open space trails, it could be up in the Miosi or up Cuesta Ridge, which is pretty far outside our city limits technically, but that's still our property.
Yeah.
To working with different community members like the Madonnas and the Pierce family who do the tree light up on Cerro San Luis. We have to kind of plan that and choreograph that because we know they're going to put it up. It's their property every December. How do we plan our staffing around that? Because it's a focus of the city to be able to look up there and see that. They do it on their own. That's one of their give backs to the community. Again, passionate about our community, but also we have our winter evening night hike program. That's not about the tree. It's about the opportunity to hike Cerro San Luis during the daylight savings change. So between November and March, Cerro San Luis is the identified open space property that we've selected for that over the last few years, and council adopted that as an official program a couple of years ago. But it ties in perfectly with that, so people can hike up there at night and check out the lights. And it's a great kind of, again, we have easement property and different agreements with property owners, but the Madonna Pierce family has been fantastic to work with. So yeah, sometimes you're never sure what phone call or what's going to be on the docket on a certain day.
Yeah, and it sounds like two collaborators
and more collaboration, exactly,
with people who may not necessarily work specifically for the city, but they are stewards of the city as well. That's amazing. I love looking out. I can see that. I think the tree from my balcony here. It's
great.
Just amazing. You can see that mountain from everywhere. I love another great thing about this place.
It's usually just December 1st, but the family was smart, I'd say, and planned it to light the same night as the city's downtown holiday light in Mission Plaza, the tree lighting. So that was the Friday after Thanksgiving.
Perfect.
Which was late this year, but it was tied right in. So they kind of planned it for that Friday night to when the tree light lit up in Mission Plaza, then they lit up on top of Cerro San Luis.
Oh, I can't wait to see it.
Yeah.
Because actually last night I got into town for the first time since Thanksgiving. Yeah. I've been traveling, so now I'm back.
Check out your balcony tonight. Yeah.
Yeah. Obviously, this is Cerro San Luis.
It's Cerro on the left, Bishop on the right.
This is not the way they're situated. It's a poor Photoshop job.
I can say it looks a little bit off by height. The M is actually for not Madonna, but for Mission Prep.
Oh, yes, right. And it's not that I made it bigger for this photo. I took some artistic liberty.
We have a trail called the M Trail that you go right up to.
I haven't done that one.
Oh, yeah.
So again, that's a trail that you helped maintain. Then
I don't know the number of trails that we have, but I just know the mileage.
And
it was 60, then it was 62, and now it's 65 plus. That's all we're kind of lost track. We keep adding more and refining and kind of rearranging them. Some of them are 25 years old, and we've had to do some serious work on them, and others are, as of this summer, brand new.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Yeah. We're very lucky. I mean, like the city council and the city leadership 20 to 25 years ago were intentional to kind of build, I call it the moat. So it's like a green space that surrounds the city, and that's all of our open space. There's probably 7,500 acres, but 4,050 are accessible by our community members, not just city staff, but community can find their way through Reservoir Canyon to Miosi, Irish Hills, and obviously Bishop Peak and Cerro San Luis.
When you talk about some of these existing, trail systems and things that have been in place for a long time, and you talked about today some newer parks and things. How is it? I think I spoke with Bob Hill a little bit about this too, but how are new spaces or new ideas kind of conceived and then put into fruition? The things like that are happening at Laguna. Who dreams these up?
Thank you for that question. This is a good topic because we spent, the city staff, our Parks and Recreation Commission, about 5 years developing an updated. We call it it's a master plan, but it's really it's called the general element. Is what it's
I wanted to talk about this. Yeah.
We call it the blueprint for the future because I'm just getting different words. But the Park and Recreation Blueprint for the Future is a 20-year blueprint plan. It's basically mandated through our city process. We have one for housing, we have some for other ones, but it's called a general element. And it has to be formally built out through community input, staff input. We had some consultants obviously assisting us with that, and then adopted formally by the council. That happened in July of 2021. And it starts to rank and assess our current park system based off of the acreage and amenities for what our population is, what the community surveys, feedback that we've did during that 5-year process. And then it also ranks in priority, so like kind of a 0 to 5 recommended, like, hey, either add or fix or upgrade, and it has like a list, and then a 5 to 10 and a 10 to 20. So Laguna Lake Park, for example, the dog park and dog parks in general, through our community survey, was in the top 3.
Wow.
And this is in 2018 through 2020. Those 2 years, we did a lot of the outreach to the community. We had open forums, we had town halls, and a community-wide survey. We didn't have any formal dog parks. We had a dog area, non-fenced over at Laguna, but it wasn't really a true dog park. No fencing, no real upgrades and kind of amenities that you would and associate with a dog park. Community members would bring their own chairs, that kind of thing, right? So that was the first priority was, let's redo and expand and make that a top of the line dog park. It's 3 acres, one of the largest in the county. So we had this great opportunity to do a pretty expansive and fun, and I think it's going to be an amazing dog park. And we're about 80% done already. The bike park that's over there as well is an in-house build through our ranger staff. And we, again, collaborate with natural resources and public works to help get that done. That was also in the top 3 or 4 in the community surveys, that we don't have a spot for kids to ride their bikes in a safe atmosphere besides the trail system, which is really more complicated and a little more advanced. How do you go from riding on the street in front of your house to then riding shooters or Irish Hills trails? Where's that happy medium? It's now we have that. So we're in phase 2 already with that program. All those kind of spurred on because of the blueprint process. Open space land acquisition is the bigger long view there. That's where natural resources, Bob Hill, for example, you've talked about. He's always kind of looking, and we have money set aside in our CIP, capital improvement projects, for when an opportunity arises for county or private property that's going to go up for sale. Does it make sense for the city to say, hey, that can add to, let's say, the Irish Hills Natural Reserve, or the base of Cerro San Luis? It's with Madonna Pierce family owns that property. We own the bottom third, believe it or not, just on the freeway sides where that southeast kind of section off where our trailhead is on Marsh. So Lemon Grove Loop, the M Trail. Then you go across, go through a little gate, and that is technically the Madonna Pierce family all the way to the top of the peak there.
Wow.
If a piece of that opens up, does that make sense for the city to say, hey, we need to buy that? Because now we can expand our trail system, expand our open space, kind of our buffer, and provide an opportunity for the community to expand their recreation. So that's kind of where Bob and we cross over on. He's got the policy and the kind of environmental, viewpoint. That's his expertise. Where once you get it, what can we do with it?
Yeah.
Is it passive? Is it active recreation? Is it both? Yeah. And those are all through city council and our financial plan process. And sometimes we're 5 years, 10 years, even 15 years forecasting for those. So
it sounds like even coming up with this blueprint, it was, like you said, some outreach too, to hear from the community.
Oh, absolutely.
Such an active process.
The last time it was updated had been over 20 years.
So it changes a little bit.
So it changes,
sometimes.
absolutely. Okay. Absolutely. Things, the community's interests in, 20 years ago, and before that, 20 years before, I think it was 1983 was one of the documents I had found, completely different focus. Our open space was there, but it wasn't the city's. Then you get into 1995, then you get to 2001 is when the last update had been made for the Parks and Recreation Department. 2001, we didn't even have the Damon Garcia Sports Complex yet. Because of that version of the blueprint, sport fields were a focus. So then we were able to collaborate. The Damons and the Garcia family, that was their property. It kind of came around that they were willing to like, I wouldn't say hand it to the city, but negotiate to say, hey, like there's some property we have. Are you interested in taking this over and building? And then if you do, can you name it after us? That kind of thing. Absolutely. And that's how we got our sport fields over there on Broad Street. So it all kind of ties together with the community interests. And there's national standards, there's national trends, but there's also what San Luis Obispo is very unique. We don't need a hockey rink necessarily, but people ask for one to be kind of cool. There's one in, I think, Santa Barbara, but is that the main priority? And we don't know that. I mean, I have my professional opinion, but I want to hear from our 47,000 plus to almost 48,000 plus residents on what they want.
That's cool.
And that's kind of where the blueprint came through.
Yeah.
And then every 5 years or so, we kind of reassess. Maybe not a full citywide survey, because that's very comprehensive, but Parks and Rec commissioners there's 7 of them, and that their job is to be the voice of the community and help staff guide us and advise us to make sure we're making the right decisions.
So that's a question I have, because talking about like the dog park, for example, and then even relating it to a hockey rink, for people listening to this, they have an idea. Where does it go from there? Are they waiting to be, contacted about a survey or this outreach, or how do they bring an idea?
We want them to come to us.
Okay.
Yeah. There's so many ideas, right?
Yes.
We, of course, think we know the professionals, think we know it all, but we don't. We stay connected. We go to conferences. I have, my staff. We have 2 recreation managers that are really involved. Our supervisors that work for the Parks and Rec Department are very involved, both nationally, but mainly statewide in different organizations. So we go to, from regional workshops to statewide workshops and conferences to find out what's a trend and what's a fad. Pickleball.
Trend or fad.
But right now we think it's trend, but 8-9 years ago, is this a fad? Like, where's it going to go?
Yeah.
An example was a group came to city Parks and Rec staff, said, hey, we want to convert one of the basketball courts and we want tennis, or take over a tennis court. Everybody's like, whoa, what's this thing? Pickleball? What is that? They wrote letters. They came to the Parks and Rec Commission to get that started. Commissioners hear it. What we'd like to do is called a pilot program. So we did a pilot program. The royal we. I wasn't part of the city yet, but where they did an indoor pickleball, a version of pickleball at the Ludwig Community Center. Super popular. It went from 10 people, 20 people, 50 people, and they're like, okay, let's go to Meadow Park and we'll tape down lines on the basketball court so you can get 3 courts outside, see how that goes. Kept going. Then this group got bigger, and they came to both City Parks and Rec Commission and City Council and said, we have 50 people. We have 100 people. We can't keep doing painter's tape on a basketball court. Like, we're here.
Yeah.
We're just like baseball. We're just like tennis. We're just like the swimmers. We don't have a facility. We converted in 2019 an old basketball court that wasn't really used much over at French Park into 3 pickleball courts. And then the tennis court there is kind of a multi-use. It's tennis, but it also can be pickleball. So that got painted stripes on that. So now there's 7 courts basically for pickleball, plus Meadow Park stayed as a pilot. And we just painted lines on there, and they bring their own nets and set them up, and we reserve the mornings for them. So there's different aspects of that. So that just was an organic start that became formalized. And then the city was like, okay, that's real. We can put it in our CIP, and we'll convert a basketball court into pickleball.
Yeah.
And then there was an old sand volleyball that was never used, and we made that a basketball court. So basketball didn't lose. It just got shifted. But that's because volleyball was kind of not as popular.
Sure.
Well, guess what? During the pandemic, all those became popular. So now sand volleyball is even more popular, and we're looking at that now. Like, oh, we need more sand volleyball.
There's at least one I know of.
We have 2 courts at Meadow.
Okay.
And those are the most popular. They have some lights that kind of allow you to play a little bit later. There's the one at Emerson, or at Sinsheimer Park, which is a key, like really nice version. And then a local community member and a couple of his connections redid on their own as a favor the French Park volleyball court. So we have a lot of those kind of like community groups, Rotary groups, business groups that like to volunteer and provide services. And when we can't quite make it happen, or it's going to take 3 or 4 years, they can do it a little quicker as a volunteer group, never turn that down.
Love that.
Yeah. So there's a way to get through there. There's interest. So if it's, and we actually had an ice hockey group, or still is, formally start to that process. And they came and presented first to me. Then we said, okay, if you want this, you can come to like kind of how a city council has your public comment period. They came to Parks and Rec Commission meeting, did a presentation, 3 minutes. Then that gave the commissioners like, okay, we'd like to know more about this. So then we added it to an agenda for like a couple months later, and they came and did a formal presentation, slide deck, Q&A. I think they had 10 or 12 people show up to help support them, and then answer Q&A back and forth. Okay, that's great. Like, where is it going to go? Who's paying for it?
Right.
What's your expectations? And they're kind of doing some research on their own. I haven't heard from them in a little bit, but that's how things start.
Yeah.
Doesn't mean it's going to take hold, but example is our skate park as well. That was all the same process until we got to a certain point where it became, okay, that's going to be a project.
Yeah. That's great for people to hear, that they have a voice in making change, and that the city is willing to hear everybody. And whether that it takes or not, at least they are heard.
That's the important part, is you have to be able to like hear the needs, and then it comes down to like, what can you do?
Yeah.
There's only so much space, so much money, almost like resources to do something. Or is it duplicating something we already have? They just didn't know about it yet. Sometimes we get that. I'm like, oh, we can channel you over here. Bike park, for example, kind of was that way a little bit. People were like, we need a pump track. And like, well, guess what? We kind of have a version of it coming, but they didn't know about it yet.
Yeah.
So now they're getting that information.
I was recently talking to a supervisor where I work, and he said, you can't always make things happen for everybody. There's so many people who want different things. And he said, as long as they're heard and you're able to articulate that you did a certain thing with the right intention, people are more willing to work with you on that.
Yeah, I definitely have to say no.
Yeah.
And sometimes it's not yet, which just feels better. And sometimes it's a hard no. And other times it's, oh my gosh, we never thought of that. Let's talk more.
And this kind of leads me into what I wanted to make sure to talk to you about. And I don't know which direction this will take, but I know because you had mentioned it to me offline, but this is all so great. And we're talking, and this may be a great thing too, but we talk about how things get done, community collaborations, and this place is such a phenomenal, supportive place to live. Can we talk a little bit about maybe some of the challenges that your department faces, that the city faces, that challenges sometimes can sound negative, but through challenges, really positive things can happen too. What are some specific things that you might be able to point out that can help even the community understand some of the things that are decided on because of a specific, really well-intentioned reason?
I'll kind of go with the original challenges that maybe had a positive result, because those are fun to talk about.
Yeah.
There's two kind of aspects. I think childcare, for example, is one that we used to take care of in our programs for Park and Rec, maybe 300 kids. We had, the 5 school sites. We have a great relationship, again, a collaboration and partnership with the San Luis Coastal School District. So all 5 of the elementary campuses within the city limits, we are the primary source and for before school care and after school care. The city's been doing that for 20 plus years. Pandemic came around, and we all had to figure out that can't happen anymore. Schools are closed. We lost our facilities because that's where our programs were. So we collaborated with them, with the school district administration, when it was time to be able to kind of relaunch it and work with them to use their facilities when there was no school. So there was closed school campuses because the children were doing remote learning, yet we were on site hosting kids who either had, parents had to work, especially if you're in the kind of safety field, if you're police, fire, if you're working at hospitals, that was the key core of first responder type workers that had to go back. And then you have all of our, service industry, anybody who's doing public facing who couldn't work remote and stay home, they actually had to be in person somewhere. They had nowhere to take their kids. So that was a challenge to figure that out. Because of that, it strengthened the relationship with the school district so that we could actually now double in the last 3 years, double the amount of children that we can now take care of.
Wow.
We always have wait lists. We can never take care of the entire community, right?
Sure.
But we have partners. YMCA, they do the same thing. So they take care of a couple different school sites that are outside the city limits. We partner with them and collaborate on how to do those things. So we have a great relationship with them. We do our world, they do their world, but it's complementing each other. There's nonprofit and local, like private childcare sites that the city's doing economic grants for to help them as well. So that was a challenge that we had ended up being positive because of the interest and the relationships that were built. I think the other one is the unhoused community, right? That's impacting from local businesses to parks, open space, downtown. It's not a San Luis Obispo only issue; it's a national issue. How do we try to figure it out? Can we solve it? We thought we could. 10 years ago, 15 years ago, the city made a focus on that. Prado Day Center came from that commitment, so that's a positive. But because of that, we've got some more resources, and I'm not sure how much your background knows about our MCU, the Multi-Crisis Unit, which is started by the fire department in collaboration with our police and rangers, where you have a registered, like, I don't know if it's an EMT kind of status personnel, paramedic, plus someone who's trained in counseling, either drug awareness, those kind of things. So it's a soft uniform, right? It's the embroidered badge in a regular kind of uniform, so it's not as intimidating. And they make that outreach first to kind of just make them feel comfortable to provide. Hey, do you need resources? Do you need medical attention? Do you need to go to the 40 Prado Day Center? Do you need to get connected to a bus ticket, to go back to where you want to, like your family, and what do you call that?
Re-entry.
Yeah, kind of just reunite basically.
Sure.
with because you got off a train and you didn't have any money to get back on a train,
Mm-hmm.
And then our CAT teams, which police run, that's the community action teams, train in the same way. Some of them are more police because they can do more of that next level up. But we have our CSOs, which are the community services officers. All these have kind of grown in size and outreach as resources because our unhoused community and some of our community members who are in need of maybe they're in low rent housing or need more medical attention, all kind of bubbled up a little bit. And that was a positive. Now we have more resources to then provide them and guide them towards county resources, federal resources, whatever it might be. But it doesn't solve the issue. So the challenge is it's still happening. We still have people living in creeks. We still have people living in the parks, even though it's not allowed, and they sneak around. There's unfortunately, it's more of the mental health and some of the drug or alcohol addictions that we don't have the services for in the city, but we try to connect them to those services, mostly county resources for those. So those are challenges that are not quite finished or have the happy ending, but we have been able to move the needle, I should say, in that sense. And then rangers are involved with all that, and I get to be kind of at the table for our steering committees and those kind of things. So I'm pretty well versed nowadays with that. Part of the job I was not expecting.
Yeah. Well, we're glad to have you on that case. From all of the things that you've talked about today, I think those challenges may not be maybe a surprise to people because, like you said, those are national issues in a lot of ways. But, it's about progress. And I think it's heartening to know that, again, with this open communication with the public and your department and so many others at the city, that, it is about making progress, moving the needle. So we thank you for that. That's really amazing. Again, it can't be solved in a day, but to have that empathy for people in different situations and know that it's being addressed to the best of a human's ability as we collaborate with one another at the city level or in our own neighborhoods.
And I would just emphasize that the city leadership, our city council and mayor, that's they're compassionate personalities, which you don't always get in a city structure or a district or a county structure, but we're so lucky. I'm blessed to have that leadership that I get to report to and be at the table with that aligns with some moral values, some professional values, that we're here for the entire community, and it's not just those who participate in a program, but everybody that's out downtown and shopping or eating. We've got, I think, a daytime population that almost basically doubles
Wow.
our current population. It's, anywhere from 80 to 90,000 on a daily basis. Yet our census is what, 48,000, and some change.
Yeah.
So knowing that the leadership in our community can hopefully, because they get to vote for them, selected that kind of leadership to help run our city and help guide us. So it's to live here and work here. It's kind of special.
Well, you are no exception to this. The leadership of this city is really outstanding. And I've been so fortunate to really kind of get a firsthand look at it through this podcast format. And originally when I started, I didn't have the idea to talk to so many people at this. I wanted to talk to people at the city, but I didn't know of people's interest to come to this studio and talk. And I thought it may be more of highlighting small businesses. And I really want to do that. I want to talk to anybody who has a passion for this place. But just as it's gone so far, I've talked to mostly people who are either, elected officials or working in some professional capacity. And not one time have I talked to someone who it's like, I'm the best at like everything, and just this level of everybody to have the humility to say, this is a community I'm just so fortunate to be a part of. That's how things get done. And I think it's been at least beneficial for myself, and I think definitely for the listeners as well, to hear that people, again, don't just do this as their job. They don't think about people who are unhoused as a job, but it's really because they personally have these beliefs that we can do better for people and always try. And again, you're no exception to that. It's been amazing to hear.
Thank you. Yeah, when I switched my career focus from the university to the city, that was a big thing of what's the environment, what's the support, and do I feel like I can be a part of that? And there's 12 department heads, numerous different managers and deputies that we work with, and they're all aligned in that same direction. So
that's wonderful.
It's been great. Yeah. Now,
we don't have a ton of time left, I know, but before we go, I always like to talk to people about.
I was ready for this.
Your maybe perfect weekend, and so the things that you like to do. I know we've talked about water, but what makes this place special to you? And I know we've talked about that again, so maybe you direct it toward a day or a weekend in this area.
I knew that was coming because I'm aware of the podcast and SLO Lounge, but I don't have the answer right now. I was waiting for what's your favorite food thing?
We can do that too. That's part of
it. What's so great about our community is you can literally go to the beach and surf in the morning. You can go for a hike during the day, and you can kind of do an urban walk, hike downtown and get food or see a concert all in the same day.
Yeah.
And almost barely use your vehicle.
Yes.
Right. And that's the other cool part about our town is, and I say it's a town, it's really a city. We're kind of, I feel like we're teenagers growing up. We always called it a town, but it's a city. But with the university, with the downtown, like the tourism and the draw and the amount of events that are just on the Central Coast, my perfect thing is, can I get some physical activity, if it's hike or hit the beach? Is it social interaction with your friends, outdoor, somewhere on a patio? And then can you go see some live music at night? And almost any night you can roll the dice and pick a spot, or spin the wheel, And so for being such a small community and you have all that, it's pretty amazing, and to then know, sometimes I'm always on the clock, right? So I'm walking down a trail. I'm like, oh, dang, that looks this or that's that. Or, hey, someone doesn't have their dog on a leash, but I'm in street clothes. How do you handle that, right? But sometimes you just got to turn yourself off and then just soak in what we are surrounded by.
Oh, yeah. It's a perfect place. I've ridden my bike to, granted, e-bike to Avila.
Oh, yeah.
Actually, I did run there. I did run there one time. The trail right there by Costco. I ran from here to Avila Beach through that trail, and it was kind of brutal day. But
part of our Irish Hills network.
Yeah, I was new
to Sea Canyon and then goes down that way, or go towards Johnson Ranch. Yeah,
I was new at the time, and I don't really remember. I just remember ending up on Bob Jones Trail at one time, and my knees were hurting, and and then I Ubered back here.
Yeah, it's 11 to 12 miles depending on where you're at in town.
Yeah,
but it's It's just far enough away that we're not always get the fog socked in.
Yeah.
But it's so close. It's right there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
But a great point. Again, you can do anything. It's got something for everybody.
I hope so. I mean, a lot of people like the wine country is, Edna Valley, if you're into that. If you just want to ride your bike casually, we've got great network of bikeways now. Or you want to do mountain biking, or now our bike park's almost finished and you can practice going from, hey, I'm a street rider, I want to learn how to do dirt riding. That's a good transition to then explore some trails.
Yeah, these small pockets that just get more intricate and you can explore more about the area and yourself. And again, it's this, I hope this doesn't sound cheesy, but again, it's the people, honestly. It's like, it reminds me of Santa Cruz. This you can walk downtown and people are nice.
That's great.
Like, it's so true. And that can't be said about every city in the country. Like, people are nice everywhere, but this is a generally very pleasant place to walk around and meet strangers.
I think that's a draw. I think that people that come here and want to be here have that personality.
Yeah.
And I always thought I'd live in Santa Cruz. It's kind of funny you mentioned that. Like, being a Bay Area, person, that was our beach. Was like hour and a half drive, boom, Santa Cruz. Thought I'd probably go to school there. I thought I'd end up there. Next best thing. Yes, here. Yeah.
And I work in Silicon Valley. It's a great place. People are kind. But often it's, it's that tech industry and people are very, buried in their phones a lot. It's very a certain way. I've met wonderful people. Yeah. People are always kind, but just this laid back, more like less stressful environment, I think really brings out more calm in people. Maybe that's it.
Yeah.
I know, we've talked about the blueprint, but just as we kind of say bye until next time, what is the future of Parks and Rec looking like? The state of the Parks and Rec.
The state of Parks and Rec. Thanks for that question. We've done so much in the last 5 years based off of just what the needs of the community were. So we've expanded a bunch of our programs from seniors to child care. Project-wise, at one point on my whiteboard, I had 6 projects all happening at one time.
Wow.
Traditional for Parks and Rec, it's like one a year, maybe one every year and a half. Overwhelming, but now we're chipping those away. So we updated Chang Park, a beautification project there. Mitchell Park as well. We added some new amenities right next to the playground and the senior center with some tables and shade area. Those are done now, and I'm actually erasing those off the board so we can start writing new ones up there. North Broad Street Park was a brand new park as well. But with the dog park coming hopefully online in late winter, early spring, the bike park finishing up, our pilot program there with phase 1 and phase 2 in the next probably a month to 6 weeks. Pretty excited to have like those open for the community, and we'll make a big deal about those when they're ready. The future really is we have aging infrastructure and some new parks in new developments. So Avila Ranch development, there's 3 parks that are open right now, and they're going to phase in, I think, 6 more out there. So that's something we're a part of, but the developer is building, and we get to help design those, but then they build them out and then they turn them over to the city. So our parks maintenance staff has been working out there already, and we're excited for those next phases, because that just brings more amenities of that some of our community was lacking, including pickleball, more dog parks, more sport fields are all going to be out there in the Avila Ranch area as well. Rigetti Ranch is a park system that we're finalizing design and making that plan for build out. Hopefully we'll have more information in spring and summer on those timelines, but that's a new park system that'll be added. And then Emerson Park, where Parks and Recreation offices are at, it's an old school site. Hasn't had any upgrades in a long time. We did a fitness equipment upgrade, and we did a playground upgrade. But we have a grant of $2.8 million that we're going to utilize as the startup funds, basically, to redo that park. And we're about a year and a half away with that project still. So there's a lot of the big project stuff is going to be happening for the next, 2 days all the way through next five years. And then we're going to be looking at okay, what's next, right? Does the swim center need expansion? Because we're packed over at the SLO Swim Center. Senior center is a small old school site as well over at Mitchell Park, a community center, things that the community can utilize, and not just a program for the staff, but an area that brings community together, that we can kind of meet the needs that we're still lacking in certain areas. And I mentioned aging infrastructure. We're an older city. Most of our parks were built in the 70s and 80s and early 90s. And then here we are 30 plus years later, and we needed to update those. So if it's restrooms to lighting and pathways or some of the amenities. So we'll just continue to fine tune. And I call it polishing up the stuff that we have and then adding new items when we can.
Yeah.
Now, is there money for all this? Not really, but we're always got to find that way. And we're in the financial planning process right now for the next 2 years. We got some grant opportunities. So that's kind of our future in my world that I look at. And then the staff that work in the Parks and Rec department, they are delivering every day, 7 days a week. We got something going on.
Wow.
And I know you've got some interactions with some of those staff and programs, but again, 8 divisions, and our staff are super dedicated. They love what they do, and the community, interacts with them. And I'm blessed to have that crew, and we are almost at full staff. We're still a couple vacancies that we're filling, but we try to deliver. And when we can't deliver, I know our community is supportive and patient as we keep navigating and expanding.
Yeah. Well, I, as well as the community, are so thankful for the dedication of you and your team, because that list never ends. The polishing of
we don't want it to end. We love that. We want to always polish. We always want to keep adding. And, and hopefully, and again, and the feedback from the community helps us with that.
Yeah. Well, you play a pivotal role in, again, making this place so pleasant to be in, and a place that people want to be in and be a part of actively. So we thank you for that. We thank you for coming to the SLO Lounge today. I feel like it's time to get out and recreate, because it's December and it's like 70 degrees.
I would say it's mid 70s
We're in
out
summer
there.
clothes.
I was going to wear my normal outfit for work, but I had to do short sleeves today.
Yeah.
It's too summer feel out there.
We're casual on the SLO Lounge.
Let's get out there and recreate.
Come back anytime. You and anybody in SLO who loves this place, welcome anytime. Thanks for your time, Greg.
SLO Lounge has been great. Appreciate all your work you're doing. Thanks so much.
Thanks, Greg. See ya.
Awesome.